Hello! Today we're going to shorten a men's shirt. Now my husband does not like his shirts too long. There's a certain place that they hang on his hips, and if it's longer than that, he won't wear it. So today I'm going to show you how to shorten a shirt. The first thing we need to do when we're shortening a shirt is look at how it's put together. This particular shirt is a quarter zip. It's a knit and it's got a vent. A button-down shirt would not have a vent. That would be cotton. A t-shirt would not have a vent. A hoodie would have a band. This shirt today is a knit shirt with a vent. I'm going to actually take the vent out and sew up the sides. Okay. First thing we're going to do is take out the vent. This vent has a facing. So I'm going to meticulously pick that out, take it off, sew up the sides before I even start shortening this shirt. So if I wanted to keep this vent, if I liked having, what does the vent do, first of all? And why is it called a vent? All these questions, I'm not sure, but here's what a vent does. If a guy has a little bit of a bigger belly, this will just give a little bit more room on the bottom so it doesn't bind and make it tight on the belly, which my husband also hates, although he has not that big of a belly. But men don't like tight shirts around their belly, and the vent helps that. Now if you want to keep the vent, you need to remove this first, like I'm going to do right now, and then take out the seam up further and put the vent back in. This is a pain in the butt, but it is a nice amenity to have on your shirt if you like it how it fits that with a vent. Okay, so you're asking what happened. That's a great question. I thought that this was a separate cut seam facing, but we undid it and discovered that when they cut out this shirt, they just cut some extra on the bottom to put in the vent. What does that mean? That means that we can't put this vent in again. You need either a facing or you need a lot of seam allowance to put a vent in. Now, we are taking 1.5 inches off of this. If I am a dedicated vent lover, I will use the part that I cut off and use that to make the seam facing to put in another vent. Come with me as we get a matching thread for this green. As you can tell, green is one of the most difficult colors to match. It's not that easy. See, I mean, none of those are gonna work. That's not gonna work. Oh, we're kind of close. I mean, this looks like it might work. What we have to do is, oh, that's gonna work. Oh yeah. All right, we have turned this shirt inside out because we're gonna sew up the vent on the side. All right, and we've got our matching thread, and this is not gonna be difficult. If you can just see how they've done this, we're gonna sew that up, and I'm gonna cut it, I'm gonna zigzag it, and then I'm gonna cut it off. Now we have to decide how the seam was put in the first place, and if we want to do it that way or a different way. Most of the time, these are put in with sergers. And I have a serger, but you probably don't. And so I want to figure out how this went in. So I'm going to just pop a stitch right here, see what kind of stitching they used, and try to put it in the same exact way. Let me just see. This was just done with a chain stitch, I think. It's almost like a straight stitch. So we're just gonna pretend that you don't have a serger, and we're just gonna put it in on a straight stitch, okay? So what we're gonna do now is I'm going to press 1.5 inches up and pin it a little bit because I'm gonna go in and sew it. Now, we have to decide for 1 second. When I roll it 1.5 inches, do I have enough room to sew it without sewing on what's already been folded? Or do I have to take this out? This is almost a one inch fold. If I fold it 1.5 inches, I will have to sew it like 5/8 inch. And it's not gonna look good. So I'm gonna take this out. All right, so I have to take out this all the way around, which means I have to take out the stitching that I just put in, which there's nothing worse than taking out your own stitching, because you have to, by every stitch, admit that you did not have the foresight to figure out that this is what you would have to do. And you're just like, every stitch is like reminding you that you're not as smart as you want to be. So here I am, reminding myself of that. But we have to take that out a little bit, so I can take this out so I don't sew over it when I press it and sew it. So now I'm gonna press it, and I think I'm gonna sew it together after I press it, so I have to take it completely all the way out to the beginning. Camera. Okay, so remember when I measured the original hem, it was about 7/8 of an inch? Was the original hem? So that's where kind of I want to sew with my new stitching. And Hope has a 6/8 of an inch. Do we want to? We want to kind of go as original as we can, right? So I'm going to go just actually a little over 6, and I'm going to go to the edge of this button thing right here. That's where I'm going to sew. And I actually, I'm going to turn this over because my bobbin thread is a tiny bit darker. I don't know if you can see that, than my top. Sometimes I don't match my bobbin thread exactly because I know it's not going to show. And I'm going to have to keep that on the bottom. So I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to fold it right here. So I'm sewing with my perfect matching thread on the outside. We're going to go to the nub right side out of Hope's 6/8 of an inch. And I'm going to sew this before I cut it. That is key. And we're on zigzag. We got to come off of that. And I'm going to do a big stitch because, it's a good reason. Because this is a jersey knit stretch. And we don't want to do a small stitch. A small stitch is going to cause it to be wavy. A big stitch will take more of a chunk in so that it's not as wavy. I hope that makes sense. But a big chunk will be better. I'm going to graze the edge of my button there. And after I sew a little bit, I want to make sure the thread matches okay and it's not wavy. And it looks like it's going as planned. It looks pretty good. And so I'm going to keep going the whole way around. Now, I'm going to sew the front and the back separately because I took out what I sewed. I am altering those front and back separately, and then I'll sew those together at the end. We have sewn our stitching, and just so that you'll know, see that my bobbin thread is a shade darker than my top thread. Can you see that? How nicely the top thread looks compared to my bottom thread. That's being very picky, but that's what we do. Now I'm going to cut this off. They didn't zigzag this, they didn't serge it. They just cut it off kind of close to the stitching. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it about 1/8 of an inch probably because it will fray a little bit. That's all we're going to do. I'm going to trim the stitching up, and then I'm going to sew up what used to be the vents that I fixed, but we'll sew up those side vents again when I'm done trimming this off. Be careful you don't trim through, and for that reason, a lot of times I like to open it up and not trim blind. Like this is trimming blind because I don't know what's behind there. But if I open it up and trim it on this side, I know I'm not going to cut the hoodie. So I got this cut off, and it turned out being like 1.25 inches, which is not really enough to make a vent. If I were to make a vent, I would sew this right sides together like that, fold it, and I guess it might be enough to make a vent. But see, now my lines are going the wrong way, just so you'll know. But you can also get a different fabric, like a broadcloth or a cotton that is a good similar color, or just do it in a color that you like with this color. Some shirts do it as a contrast, but we're not putting in that vent. We're gonna sew up these side seams and then we're gonna be done. I mean, what is to prevent me from just doing a zigzag stitch on the edge because I don't want to do a straight stitch? Let's just see if that works. We're gonna steam that pucker out. I think that'll be fine. Just so that you'll know, this is a bulky fabric, so I didn't press down hard with my iron because I don't want to flatten this bulky fabric. So I just mostly put a lot of steam on it, and then I kind of played with it until it did it correctly. We're turning it inside out. The steam fixed all of our problems at the very end, and I like how it looks. See, it's gonna be fine. It looks good. It's gonna be fine. And now he's gonna wear this. He said he got this a year and a half ago, but didn't wear it because it was too long. And now we fixed that problem. Thank you for watching this video on how to shorten a man's shirt. This one had a vent we did away with, and next time I'm gonna do shorten another shirt that is a little bit different so you can see how to do all kinds. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.